Coin Collectors, it's DC on the Big D Coin Channel. We're going to look at some 1969 United States nickels today. And it is a really interesting coin, and it's a coin that people just either don't submit it for grading or there just aren't any that are really gradable. But it's one of the coins where you will almost never find it in a certain condition. And let's talk about what that condition might be. There's one thing you will never ever find, and that is you'll never ever find a 1969 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark on it. Why is that? Well, in 1969 they did not make any coins at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1968 they didn't make any coins at the Philadelphia Mint. So you won't find a 68 or 69 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark. So every one of these here is going to have either the D, and there's a D there for Denver. And at Denver in 1969, they made 202, almost 203 million. Or an S, and there's the S there. That's a dented S, but I'll show you another one that's even worse. And at the San Francisco Mint, for the S, they made 123 million. So about 325 million between the two mints. And if you can get one of these in an MS-65, you're going to be talking about $5 to $7. But if you're going to try to find one of these in a proof set, it's probably going to be worth about 75 cents. Why is that? Well, there's something interesting about the 1969 Jefferson nickels. Let's start talking about it, but just by looking at this one on the front. It says, "In God we trust" here, "Liberty" here. There's a star there in 1969. Then there's down here, there is the D for Denver. Now, these coins have been made since 1938. They have not had any changes to them other than in the 1940s, from 1942 to 1945, they made some of these which were silver. And not pure silver, but copper, silver, and manganese. But other than that, these were not changed until we hit the year 2004. Everything was the same. One of the things you always look at on these coins, and oh, there's one other thing that was changed, and I should talk to you about that. Until the 60s, there wasn't an FS on the bottom. So see down there, that's not a very good one. Let's see if we can find this one. See the F and the S here? That's for Felix Schlag. From 1938 until the 1960s, they did not put the designer initials on the coin. And I'm not sure why, but they just didn't. And so when you look through them, if you get one of the older coins, you won't see the FS. So that is another change that they made. But one of the things you always look at with these coins, oh, here's the bad S. Look at this. It just all kind of got rusted almost. But let's flip it over and we'll see that it has some color to it, but it's just all messed up. The coins, of course, they stopped putting the mint marks on the back in the 60s also, and they moved them to the front. Now, what would we look at if we were looking at an expensive 1969 coin? We would look for one that had some steps on it. In 1969, you start by looking for any steps at all. None on this one. Let's look through some of these. None on this one. Why is that we're having trouble finding steps? Well, these are pretty worn. That's part of it. The other part of it is they just didn't make them very well. They made them, even when these were minted, they did not have the full steps on them. And how can I tell that they didn't have the full steps on them? Well, in 1969, they did do some special mint sets. We haven't seen a step yet, have we? Jeez. And those special mint sets, well, I call them special mint sets. They're actually PDS sets. So it's an uncirculated mint set with the P, the D, and S coins. All of those just look awful. Here is one. So this is from an uncirculated mint set that you could only get if you ordered. It says, "In God we trust" here, "Liberty" here. In these uncirculated sets, they had some P's, some D's, and some S's. They did not have any P's or no mint marks, of course, and because there wasn't any. So in the uncirculated set from 1969, we have a D and an S, and look how good that FS is there. It's just magnificent. This came straight out of the plastic, and it looked like this coming out of the plastic. This is the best they could do. They picked the best of the coins, and this is how it came out of the plastic. The D is actually really fine, but it had these scratches and dings all over it. Now, this came straight out of the plastic, and that's our steps. Look at that. Maybe you can see a couple steps over here, but even these don't go all the way across. This is brand new, never been touched, never been circulated until once it got put in the plastic, until I took it out of the plastic. So that's what we're talking about, the no steps on these. Let's look at the other one. This is, of course, and this is just a sweet looking coin in terms of, again, no steps, and this is the S. So remember, they didn't make any fillies. This is the uncirculated S, this is uncirculated D, and when we flip them over, we can see that there are really no steps on either one. A full steps version of this coin would go for the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. There are very few of them available. If you can get a really good full steps version, you might be talking about thousands of dollars. So always look for the steps on these. You probably never will find them, and I don't think PCGS has any of these that were graded over an MS or Mint State 67, just because they just ran them through. They didn't take much care with them, and the dies were so worn that even on the uncirculated ones, there are no steps, or very few steps. All right, that's all we have today from Big D Coins. This is DC saying, please subscribe to the Big D Coin channel and leave any comments you might have in the comments section.